Hey there, Booksy, welcome back to my channel. One of the series that I've done here on my channel is to do a read aloud read along of Maya Angelou's first memoir, I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings. And I started reading that book aloud here on the channel and I wasn't getting a lot of engagement, so I stopped doing it, but people asked me to bring it back. And over time, a lot of you have told me that you really enjoyed it, and some people have even asked me to continue reading her memoir series because Maya Angelou during her lifetime wrote 7 autobiographies. And so I decided to start reading her second book, her second memoir that is, and that is Gathered Together in My Name. This is the second book. I ordered a copy from Book Depository because I wanted to start reading it this month, but it hasn't come yet. So I got this copy from the library, and today we're going to start reading it. The book begins with a little bit of an explanation. It's not quite a prologue, but it is kind of a bridge between where she left off in the first memoir to where she's going to pick up in this second book. And so Gathered Together in My Name, we're going to be reading it. We're going to be starting with the introduction. It's not named, so I don't know if I should call it an introduction or a prologue, but I'm going to be reading it to you. And then after that, I think we're going to read chapter 1. The chapters in this book are really short, so I think we'll be able to read multiple chapters per video. So here we go for the introduction. It was a come as you are party, and all y'all come. If you bring your own bottle, you'll be expected to share. If you don't, it's all right. Somebody will share with you. It was triumph and brotherhood. Everybody was a hero. Hadn't we all joined together to kick the hell out of De Gruber and that fat Italian and put that little rice-eating Tojo in his place? Black men from the South who had held no tools more complicated than plows, had learned to use lathes and borers and welding guns, and had brought in their quotas of war-making machines. Women who had only known maids' uniforms and mammy-made dresses donned the awkward men's pants and steel helmets and made the ship-fitting sheds hum somebody. Even the children had collected paper and, at the advice of elders who remembered World War I, balled the tinfoil from cigarettes and chewing gum into balls as big as your head. Oh, it was a time. Soldiers and sailors and the few black Marines, fresh from having buried death on a sandy South Pacific beach, stood around looking proud out of war-wise eyes. Black marketeers had sped around a million furtive corners, trying to keep the community supplied with sugar, cigarettes, rationing stamps, and butter. Prostitutes didn't even take the time to remove their $75 shoes when they turned $20 tricks. Everyone was a part of the war effort. And at last, it had paid off in spades. We had won. Pimps got out of their polished cars and walked the streets of San Francisco, only a little uneasy at the unusual exercise. Gamblers, ignoring their sensitive fingers, shook hands with shoeshine boys. Pulpits rang with the I told you so of ministers who knew that God was on the side of right and he would not see the righteous forsaken nor their young beg bread. Beauticians spoke to the shipyard workers, who in turn spoke to the easy ladies, and everybody had soft little preparation to smiles on their faces. I thought, if war did not include killing, I'd like to see one every year, something like a festival. All the sacrifices had won us victory, and now the good times were coming. Obviously, if we earned more than rationing would allow us to spend during wartime, things were really going to look up when restrictions were removed. There was no need to discuss racial prejudice. Hadn't we all, black and white, just snatched the remaining Jews from the hell of concentration camps? Race prejudice was dead. A mistake made by a young country. Something to be forgiven as an unpleasant act committed by an intoxicated friend. During the crisis, black people had often made more money in a month than they had seen in their whole lives. Black men did not leave their wives, driven away by an inability to provide for their families. They rode in public transport on a first-come, first-seated basis, and more times than not were called Mr. or Mrs. at their jobs or by sales clerks. 2 months after V-Day, war plants began to shut down, to cut back, to lay off employees. Some workers were offered tickets back to their southern homes, back to the mules they had left tied to the tree on old Mr. Dew Hiccup farm. No good. Their expanded understanding could never again be accordioned into these narrow confines. They were free, or at least nearer to freedom than ever before, and they would not go back. Those military heroes of a few months earlier who were discharged from the army in the city which knows how began to be seen hanging on the ghetto corners like forgotten laundry left on a backyard fence. Their once starched khaki uniforms were gradually bastardized. An ETO jacket, plus medals, minus stripes, was worn with out-of-fashion zoot pants. The trim army pants, creases trained in symmetry, were topped by loud, color-crazed Hawaiian shirts. The shoes remained. Only the shoes. The army had made those shoes to last, and damn it, they did. Thus, we lived through a major war. The question in the ghettos was, can we make it through a minor peace? I was 17, very old, embarrassingly young, with a son of 2 months, and I still live with my mother and stepfather. They offered me a chance to leave my baby with them and return to school. I refused. First, I reasoned with the righteous seriousness of youth. I was not Daddy Claudel Jackson's blood daughter, and my child was his grandchild only as long as the union between daddy and mother held fast, and by then I had seen many weak links in their chain of marriage. Second, I consider that although I was mother's child, she had left me with others until I was 13, and why should she feel more responsibility for my child than she had felt for her own? Those were the pieces that made up the skin of my refusal, but the core was more painful, more solid, truer. A textured guilt was my familiar, my bedmate to whom I had turned my back, my daily companion whose hand I would not hold. The Christian teaching dinned into my ears in the small town in Arkansas would not be quieted by the big city noise. My son had no father, so what did that make me? According to the book, bastards were not to be allowed into the congregation of the righteous. There it was. I would get a job and a room of my own and take my beautiful son out into the world. I thought I might even move to another town and change our names. During the months when I was tussled with my future and that of my son, the big house we lived in began to die. Suddenly, jobless roomers who lined their solemn trunks with memories before they packed in folds of disappointment left San Francisco for Los Angeles, Chicago, Detroit, where they say jobs were begging for workers. The loud slams of the front doors were heard more seldom, and the upstairs kitchen where the roomers exercised their cooking privileges gave fewer and fewer of the exotic aromas which used to send me running to our kitchen for snacks. The gamblers and prostitutes, black marketeers and boosters, all those sucker fish who had gotten fat living on the underbelly of the war, were the last to feel the pinch. They had accumulated large masses of money, which never went into a bank, but circulated among their tribe like promiscuous women. And by the nature of their professions, they were accustomed to the infidelity of lady luck and the capriciousness of life. I was sorry to see the dancers go. Those glamorous women, only slightly older than I, who wore pounds of Max Factor number 31, false eyelashes, and talked out of the sides of their mouths, their voices sliding around cigarettes which forever dangled from their lips. They had often practiced their routines in the downstairs kitchen, the BS chorus. Time steps, slides, flashes, and breaks, smoking all the time. I was fairly certain that in order to be a chorus dancer, one would have to smoke. By no amount of agile exercising of a wishful imagination could my mother have been called lenient. Generous she was, indulgent never. Kind, yes, permissive never. In her world, people she accepted paddled their own canoes, pulled their own weight, put their own shoulders to their own plows and pushed like hell, and here I was in her house, refusing to go back to school, not giving a thought to marriage, admittedly no one asked me, and working at nothing. At no time did she advise me to seek work, at least not in words. But the strain of her nights at the pinochle table, the responsibility of the huge sums which were kept in the bedroom closet, wore on her already short temper. In earlier, freer days, I might have simply noted and recorded her grumpiness, but now my guilt, which I carried around like a raw egg, fed my paranoia, and I became sure that I was a nuisance. When my baby cried, I rushed to change him, feed him, coddle him, to, in fact, shut him up. My youth and shuddering self-doubt made me unfair to that vital woman. She took great joy in her beautiful grandchild, and as with most egocentric people, saw his every virtue as a mirror for her own. He had pretty hands. Well, look at mine. His feet were absolutely straight with high insteps, so were hers. She was not annoyed with me. She was playing the hand life had dealt her, as she had always done, and she played it masterfully. The mixture of arrogance and insecurity is as volatile as the much touted alcohol and gasoline. The difference is that with the former, there's a long internal burning, usually terminating in self-destroying implosion. I would quit the house, take a job, and show the whole world, my son's father, that I was equal to my pride and greater than my pretensions. That's the end of the introduction. So now we're going to read chapter 1, which is only 1 page. Here goes with chapter 1. I was mortified. A silly white woman who probably counted on her toes looked me in the face and said I had not passed. The examination had been constructed by morons for idiots. Of course, I breezed through without thinking much about it. Rearrange these letters. A-C-T, A-R-T, A-S-T. Okay, cat, rat, sat. Now what? She stood behind her makeup and coiffed hair and manicured nails and dresser drawers with scented Angora sweaters and years of white ignorance and said that I had not passed. The telephone company spends thousands of dollars training operators. We simply cannot risk employing anyone who made the marks you made. I'm sorry. She was sorry. I was stunned. In a stupor, I considered that maybe my outsized intellectual conceit had led me to take the test for granted. And maybe I deserved this high-handed witch's remarks. May I take it again? That was painful to ask. No, I'm sorry. If she said she was sorry one more time, I was going to take her by her sorry shoulders and shake a job out of her. There is an opening, though. She might have sensed my unspoken threat. For a busgirl in the cafeteria. What does a busgirl do? I wasn't sure I could do it. The boy in the kitchen will tell you. After I filled out forms and was found uninfected by a doctor, I reported to the cafeteria. There, the boy, who was a grandfather, informed me. Collect the dishes, wipe the tables, make sure the salt and pepper shakers are clean, and here's your uniform. The coarse white dress and apron had been starched with concrete and was too long. I stood at the side of the room, the dress hem scratching my calves, waiting for the tables to clear. Many of the trainee operators had been my classmates. Now, they stood over laden tables waiting for me or one of the other dumb bus girls to remove the used dishes so that they could set down their trays. I lasted at the job a week and so hated the salary that I spent it all the afternoon I quit. That's the end of chapter 1. We'll be back next time to continue Maya Angelou's second memoir. We'll be back to read chapter 2 in the next video. So I hope you'll come back and join me. We'll be reading together, gather together in my name. If you have a copy of this book, I'd love if you got your copy out and read it along with me. Otherwise, you can just click these videos and listen to me read. I'll be starting a brand new playlist. If you're new to my channel and you'd like to start with Maya Angelou's first memoir, there is a playlist where I read all the chapters of I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings. I'll link that in the description box down below, so if you'd like to start there. Otherwise, I'll be creating a brand new playlist starting with this video where you can watch this video as well as all the subsequent chapters in this book. So I hope you like this video. Give me a thumbs up if you did. Subscribe if you haven't already. Let's talk in the comments, and until next time, happy reading. Bye.